Hi there. Today I'd like to talk to you about how to use therapy when you don't have anything pressing to talk about, and how these sessions can actually be some of the most productive sessions of your therapy tenure. In the years that I've been practicing therapy, a lot of clients have come in and said, I really don't know what to talk about today. So today I'd like to tell you what to expect from sessions where that's the case and how to make the most of them. Sessions where you have nothing to talk about can be enormously powerful because it can help you focus on your strengths. For example, if you're coming to therapy to talk about anxiety, you might come in one week and talk about how a social situation made you anxious. Then you might come in the next week and talk about a situation at work where you felt anxious. And then you might come in and think, I actually wasn't that anxious this week. And it's easy to dismiss that as there's nothing to talk about, when in actuality, in that session, there's a lot to talk about. Because a week of no anxiety is exactly what you're trying to achieve. So the things to talk about in that session are: what went well this week? What was it like for you to have a week with no anxiety? Were there situations where you normally would have felt anxious, but you actually felt okay? What can we do to increase the number of weeks in your life where you don't experience anxiety? And so on and so forth. So a week where you think you have nothing to talk about might actually be a good week to look at as a microcosm of what you're trying to achieve more broadly in your life. Another great way to use sessions where you don't feel like you have anything pressing is to focus on themes in your life. There's this great acronym in the therapy world, and the acronym is COW, which stands for Crisis of the Week. The idea behind that is that if you come in and you have something burning that you need to talk about, that crisis might dominate the session. And ideally, that therapy session will then refocus on how this crisis fits into broader themes in your life. But if you come in and you don't have a cow, you don't have a crisis of the week, that's a great opportunity to look at those themes from a more zoomed out perspective. So your therapist might say to you, the last few weeks we've talked about these situations that really highlight your perfectionism. Today, why don't we do a deep dive into your history of perfectionism and talk about how that's shown up throughout your life? And this is a great opportunity to talk about things from more of a theoretical and longitudinal stance. Another thing to consider when you feel like you don't have anything to talk about in therapy is what's in the way of talking today. Maybe there's genuinely nothing at top of mind, but maybe there's some barrier that you and your therapist can address together. For example, are you mentally elsewhere? Are you feeling a little bit foggy and blocked? And if so, is that impacting you in other areas of your life? Is it hard to talk today because you're protecting yourself? Maybe you opened up about something really vulnerable at your last session, and now you're sitting in the room with your therapist and you just feel icky about it because they've seen this part of you that you're not super proud of. Or are you upset with your therapist? Did they say something in your last session that made you feel uncomfortable or judged? Do you find that it's hard to sit with them because you're having all of these feelings about the therapeutic relationship? And if so, is it time to take a break from talking about what's going on in your life and hone in instead on the therapeutic relationship and work on healing that? And maybe even use that process of healing that rift to model what it could be like in other relationships in your life to address something that feels uncomfortable. Of course, for that to be the case, your therapist has to be somebody who can accept feedback and work with you and come from a place of humility and openness to listening to what you have to say. If they are, and if they're open to working together to mend that rift, that can be an extremely powerful session. If none of the other things I've talked about in this video are true, it's possible that you have nothing to talk about because you're ready to graduate from therapy. At Through the Woods, what that means is we go back to the goals that we made in one of your early sessions, and we look at them together, and we evaluate your progress. When we're looking at those goals, we can find a lot of things to be true. We can find that, hey, we've checked off a lot of the boxes on this list. Your life is so much like you hoped it would be on your first day of therapy as a result of attending therapy, and now it's time for us to take a break. You can call me if you need me. I'm here if you want support in the future, but congratulations, I think you're ready to graduate from therapy. Looking at the goals can also remind us of something that was important to you at the beginning and allow us to revisit it. Either something that you used to think was important and now it's not anymore, or something that we put on the back burner because other things were a higher priority, or things that you've been deliberately avoiding because they're hard to talk about and you haven't been ready to go there yet. It's also possible that by looking at the list, you'll realize that the list is pretty dated and that it's time to add some new goals to address where you actually are in your life. And the process of setting those new goals can help reinvigorate the therapy process. On a whole, it's really understandable that on a day when you feel like you don't have very much to talk about, you'd wonder if it's even worth having your therapy session. After all, therapy is a big investment of time and money. So if you don't have anything task-oriented or at top of mind for your session, you might find yourself start to worry about whether that investment is worthwhile today. But on a whole, I want to encourage you, rather than canceling a therapy session on a day where you feel like you don't have very much to talk about, go into that session and talk to your therapist about those feelings. Because a lot of the time, when it feels like there's nothing to talk about, there's a lot to talk about. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I look forward to seeing you soon.